Welcome to Courageous Conversations with Dr. Christina. This is Moving Forward Monday, a space for honest dialogue, real life, and healing conversations that help us move forward with intention. This podcast is audio only by design, so you can listen without distraction and receive what you need at your own pace. Let's get into today's courageous conversation. Before we begin, I want to create a safe listening space. This podcast discusses real-life experiences related to trauma, healing, and growth. Nothing shared here is meant to re-traumatize or overwhelm you. You are always in control of how you listen. You can pause, skip, or step away at any time. This podcast is not a substitute for therapy or professional support, but it is a space for honesty, reflection, and courage. If at any point something feels heavy, please take care of yourself in whatever way you need. You are not weak for needing support, and you are not alone.
Hey everyone, yes, it is Dr. Christina, and we are on episode 4, Boundaries, Protection, Not Punishment. I hope you done grabbed your coffee and your tea, and you are ready to get into this topic today. Let me sip mine real quick. I am really glad you're here for this one. And before we even get into it, I want to remind you, this podcast may not be what you're used to. It's not about gossip. It's not surface level conversations. And it's not built just to entertain you. This is an audio experience on purpose. So you can slow down, you can listen, and you can actually process what's being said. And I know that may not excite everybody, but if you stay with me, it will inform you, it will ground you, and it will give you real tools to move from surviving to thriving. And if you've been walking with me through these episodes, then you already know. We've been talking about grief, not just grief connected to losing a person, but grief connected to losing parts of yourself, your sense of safety, your sense of trust, your voice, your clarity. And today, we're continuing that conversation because what you're really saying, whether you have the words for it or not, is this: boundaries are protection, not punishment. So, before we get started, I want you to take a slow breath. Notice your posture. Notice your breathing. Because this episode is not about pushing people away. It's about redefining access. So, let's talk about it. After sexual violation, boundaries can feel complicated. You might find yourself doing one or two things. You either overcorrect and build walls so high, that nobody can reach you. And I had to really catch that, right? Because a lot of us know that when things happen to us, such as sexual violation or inappropriately being touched, we build walls so high that nobody can reach us. Or we hesitate to build any at all because now you're questioning yourself. You question your instincts, your discomfort. You even question your voice. And most of the time that can be confusing. It can build up tension. And you know what that leads to? Grief. Because when someone crosses your boundaries, especially in a sexual context, something shifts internally. It shifts internally. And I want to talk to you all from a place of transparency, right? I was sexually violated twice. I was violated by multiple of people, and I was violated by one person. And in that violation, I began to look at it like it was my fault. Like I should have known better, that the signs should have been there, right? I felt like my friends should have protected me, because the violation that happened with multiple of people, I was at a friend's house where I thought that was my friend. And at that time, we were partying and we were drinking, but I was drinking because I felt safe. But I wasn't, because I blacked out. And when I woke up, I don't know how long I was out, but when I woke up, I could literally feel that I had been violated. I was sore in many areas, and the shame immediately came upon me. And the only thing that I can do in that moment was to put my clothes on and act as if it did not happen. I walked out of the room, back into the living room, and proceeded to keep drinking. And that's because the shame and the guilt of what I felt like I just allowed to happen was all that was playing in my head. And it was like I didn't want anyone else to know what had taken place. But guess what? Everyone knew that was in that house. But nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it, not even me. And I believe that I built a wall up for protection, but I also built a wall up so that I wouldn't even remember it. Because the wall doesn't always have to be for protection. The wall can be put up so that you don't have to see the guilt and the shame. And I pray that that makes sense to all of you that will listen. Walls are there for protection. However you want to view the wall, but the wall becomes your boundaries. And boundaries are not about controlling other people. They are about defining your comfort, right? They communicate. This is what feels safe for me. This is what feels respectful for me. This is what I will engage in or not. I need you all to hear me clearly. You don't have to explain your boundaries for them to be valid. Autonomy doesn't require permission. Let me say that again. You don't have to explain your boundaries for them to be valid. And autonomy doesn't require permission. Okay. You're probably saying, what does this look like in real life? Right? Boundaries after violation may look like taking things slowly in relationships. I don't know about any of you, but taking things slowly in relationships were safe for me, right? And what I mean by that is I had to take things slowly because I didn't trust anybody as it related to relationships, right? Clarifying expectations early, letting people know your boundaries early on so that everybody is clear on what those boundaries look like and what your expectations are. They don't have to like them, but you don't have to give them permission for your boundaries to be valid. Leaving environments that feel uncomfortable, y'all. I wish I had the knowledge that I am giving to you all now back then, because I would have left that environment the minute I felt myself becoming intoxicated. But because I believed that that was my friend, it goes back to relationships. It goes back to relationships. And remembering saying no without apologizing. You do not have to apologize for saying no. You owe nobody an explanation as to what you're saying no to. And please hear me carefully. Trust your intuition. That thing that's stirring in your stomach. Trust your intuition, even when you can't logically explain it. But when your stomach get the turning and you keep feeling something and it feels off, trust it, please. Trust it. Trust your intuition. Also, requiring communication, requiring consistency and respect. Communicate, be consistent, and demand respect. And I'm telling you, in the beginning, it might feel unfamiliar, but the more you do it, it will become a part of who you are becoming, right? Make sure that you don't forget that sometimes clarity to some people or even to us, because if we haven't been communicating clearly to people, because we're so used to accommodating other people and their feelings. But when you start putting your feelings before other people's feelings, clarity can feel confrontational to some people, because guess what? They're so used to you saying yes. But when you've been put in a compromising situation, you got to be clear when it comes to your communication, your consistency, and the respect that you demand. Okay? I hope you understand where I'm coming from, but I want you all to understand that everything that I do, everything that I teach on, I've walked through it. So you are not alone in these courageous conversations. I am having them with you now because I can. But I was once like you all, unable to talk about it or put a name to it because of guilt and shame and even grief. And I need you all to understand that sometimes when you begin setting boundaries, this new sense of fear will show up, right? And it'll begin to talk to you like, what if I'm too rigid? What if I'm pushing people away? What if I'm overreacting? That one for me. I question everything. Everything. I question everything about myself. When I began to set boundaries, oh girl, you overreacting. But I wasn't. I wasn't overreacting. It was just the fear, from my past violations and my fear of my past invalidation. Because my past violation wasn't validated. People didn't even acknowledge that it happened. And they didn't acknowledge it because I did not acknowledge it. I just continued on like it never happened. I didn't validate it. So why would others? But I need you to understand that if someone is uncomfortable with your boundaries, they may have benefited from you not having them in the past, right? People that becomes uncomfortable with you putting boundaries in place and saying no is because they was benefiting from you saying yes and having no boundaries, right? Because healthy people respect clarity. Healthy people respect communication. Healthy people respect. Yes. Yes, y'all. People that are healthy, they respect you enough because they respect themselves. So they respect boundaries and clarity. And they do not require access at your expense. Not at all. Not at all. And I want you all to understand this, right? Boundaries regulate your nervous system. Did you know that? When you know you can say no and it will be honored, your body relaxes. When you trust that your discomfort matters, your body begins to feel safe again. And after violation, safety starts internally. Yeah, I need you to hear that. After a violation, your safety must start with you. And the only way to rebuild trust by trusting, you got to trust your instincts. You got to trust pacing yourself. You got to trust your voice because your voice matters. And you got to trust that your no is a complete sentence. You can say no and put a period behind it and it is complete. And listen, you do not have to wait for something extreme to happen. No, not at all. Give yourself permission by trusting your instincts, trusting your pace, trusting your voice, and trusting your word no. Ooh, y'all, I'm not telling you that it's going to be an easy process. What I am telling you that it is doable. It is doable. It is so doable. I just want to talk to you all about walls versus boundaries, right? Because we talked about walls and we talked about boundaries, right? Walls say no one gets in, right? We talked about that wall being up, that sometimes no one can get in and we can't get out, right? But boundaries say access is earned and respected. Woo! I like that. I like that, y'all. I got to say that again. Walls say no one gets in, but boundaries say access is earned and respected. Mighty God. Walls isolate, but boundaries filter. Yeah. Walls are reactive, but boundaries are intentional. Yes. Yes. Boundaries are intentional and walls are reactive. And after what you've been through, what I've been through, it's okay if you built walls first. That was for your protection. But over time, those walls can soften into boundaries. And that is why we're talking about it. Because once those walls soften into boundaries, that's where healing and integration comes in. Y'all, I love what I do. I love what I do, and I am so grateful for you. Oh, Lord, thank you. Integration is not perfection. Perfection says I should be over this by now. But integration says I get to choose my pace. We just talked about pace. Perfection says if I say no, I'm difficult. But integration says if I say no, I'm clear. Yes, come on, boundaries. Yes. Perfection says I don't want to seem guarded. But integration says, I value my safety. And safety is not selfish, but it's necessary, y'all. Oh, hallelujah. Yes, God. Yes, God. Yes, God. I want you to pause here for a moment. Yes, I just want you to take a pause because we done talked about some stuff, a lot of stuff. But I want you to ask yourself gently, where do I need clear boundaries? Is it in my communication? Is it in my time? Is it in my physical space or my emotional access? And I'm not asking you this for you to respond right away. No pressure. I just want to raise your awareness. No pressure at all. But before we close, I want you to take one more deep breath. Inhale, exhale. What we talked about today, this isn't surface level, y'all. This isn't something you just listen to and move on from. This is the work you carry with you. And yes, for some of you, this brought up grief. Grief around what you allowed. Grief around what you didn't recognize. Grief around the moments your voice felt silenced. But I want you to hear me clearly. Awareness is not something to be ashamed of. It's something to build from. You are not late. You are not behind. You are learning how to honor yourself in real time. And remember, you don't need permission to protect your peace. You do not need approval to honor your boundaries. And you don't have to explain your no for it to be valid. Remember, this podcast is not gossip. It's not noise. It's intentional. It's for your healing, your clarity, your growth. So when you press play, you're not just listening, you're doing the work. And I want you to carry this with you. What is one boundary you will honor this week? Not perfectly, but intentionally. We're not rushing this process. We're not forcing healing. We're allowing integration. And I'm walking this with you. And remember, I'll meet you right back here for the next courageous conversation with Dr. Christina on Moving Forward Monday. Until then, be blessed.
Thank you for sitting in this conversation today. If you recognized yourself in this episode, know this: loneliness and grief does not mean you were too much. It often means you were carrying something heavy without enough room to process it. As we continue this season, we're not reopening wounds. We're understanding patterns. Be gentle with yourself. Keep choosing courage and keep moving forward.